come with a fan club, but I think I inherited her Ladun's on. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody is having a great summit so far. Thank you for having me. My name is Ogochukwu, Ekezie, like you said. I like to say I'm transitioning, or I transitioned from brand storytelling to now narrative storytelling. I launched my film content studio in June of this year. And like I said, we're looking to tell interesting Nigerian African stories that hopefully elevate our storytelling. Ijoma asked me to speak today because she wants me to. In my past life, what I did for the last 25 years was look after brands. Yeah, as a chief marketing officer, and so she wanted me to talk about branding in film. And I've created this presentation. It's a short presentation from, I think, a filmmaker's perspective, really. And I've tried to distill some of the principles from branding and apply them to film. And hopefully I can do that in the next, 10 minutes. Really distilled it. So anyway, so why does voice matter in film? I think as filmmakers, our primary job is to be storytellers. And as storytellers, our brand is our voice. And I think that in a cluttered world where, we're competing not only locally, but globally, your voice needs to stand out for you to be able to make an impact and to build, a legacy in the industry or even in the industry. So I'll tell you to move in a second. So hold on. Let me do this. Okay. Next slide. So the first principle, I think, is to know your why. And I think Simon Sinek popularized this, start with the why. What is your why? I think as creatives, a lot of us are driven by, talent, maybe, and the fact that we have an interest in the space. But I think understanding your why and the reason why you want to tell stories is important. I think looking at the things that inspire you, the things that trigger you, the things that annoy you, the things that elevate you is a good way to start to figure out the things that you care about and the things that will help you tell the story. It's tell your own story and build your own voice in an authentic way. So I think, a lot of times we watch a lot and a lot happens in our around us. But I think as individuals, we need to be to understand authentically what our values are, to be able to understand what we want to speak about and the kinds of stories that we want to tell to hopefully inspire people. So I think the first thing is to understand why you want to tell these stories. Why should the world listen to your own or watch your own stories or read your own stories? And what is unique about the stories you want to tell? So that's the first thing. The second thing is embrace your influences, but then break away. So as artists and as creators, as filmmakers, we have influences, right? A lot of the things that our work comes from a place of influence, a place of inspiration. And if you look at your influences globally, locally, it makes sense to be inspired, by them. It makes sense to take and to learn and to watch the masters in your view, individually. But at the same time, you also don't want to become a copycat, right? You don't want to do the same things that your influencers are doing because they've created their own voice and they've established their own voice. So it's for you to look at your influence and then break away from that. For me, when I'm putting together a project or a team for a project, one of the few questions I ask is, what are you watching now? And a lot of times from what people are watching, I understand what their influences are, and I understand if we have sort of the same sensibilities towards, if we have the same mindset. And if I'm able to watch some of the things that they watch and understand why they're interested or influenced by it, then it helps me to understand a bit better who they are as artists and what drives them. So I think embrace your influences, find the right influences, but then break away. Next slide, please. Make bold choices. I think as filmmakers, as much as it's art, there's it's a lot of formula to how we do our work, right? Storytelling is formulaic in a certain sense for you to make sure that everything sort of is in the right place. But I think when most people that stand out, right, find a way to, throw in the curveball in those formulas, and then they create their own unique formulas by making bold choices. If you look at some of the influences that, or some of the big filmmakers that are out there, they've created their own style by making choices that most other filmmakers or other filmmakers won't make. By making these bold choices, that's the way that you start to place your imprint and your stamp on the work that you do, and start to sort of grow your name and your quote-unquote brand in the space. Number 4, collaborate with purpose. So I think collaboration and partnerships are key. I think that for us as artists, we can be very internal. It can be a very lonely journey. But a lot of times, for you when you make art or when you have an idea, to bring that vision to life requires other people. Filmmaking is a team sport, right? And if you don't have the right people who understand your vision, who understand, and challenge, not even only understand, but also challenge your vision and have to help you craft it, to try to help you to craft it and make it better, you might struggle. So I think finding the right people to collaborate with in the filmmaking space, to partner for different reasons, be it funding, be it helping to elevate your idea, or be able to deliver what is in your head on screen. You need to collaborate. Most of the great filmmakers out there today have collaborators that they've collaborated with for long term over the years, and that's how they continue to hone their vision, to hone their brand in the space. So I think collaboration is key. And if we're able to collaborate, actually I had some examples on there, so I hope that people are seeing it with different filmmakers. But I'm going to end with a mini case study of 2 filmmakers, so some of this stuff will come up again. But yeah, so collaborate with purpose and make sure that the people that you have, you choose to work with, are people who enhance and challenge your vision. And last principle, but not least, stay consistent, but evolve or die. So I think, in the last year when I was in the corporate world, we had this whole thing with innovate or die, innovate or die. Innovation was the big word then. Everybody was like, innovate or die. So I borrowed that from there. So I think, in branding, we always talk about consistency. So every time that anybody experiences the brand, there's a consistent experience and everybody knows it's the brand, and, if there's a full stop or if there's a dot here, don't move it, So consistency is key for recognition, right? But at the same time, nobody wants to see the same thing over and over and over again, especially in film. So I think the notion of being consistent, and in a sense, also applies to sort of being authentic to yourself, but at the same time, being able to evolve and apply, some of those apply your voice in other scenarios, be it genres, or be it, different kinds of storytelling. But I think you have to find different ways to express sort of your voice, so that it doesn't seem repetitive and it doesn't seem like you're on a hamster wheel and you're going round and round and not moving. So I think stay consistent, but evolution is key, and evolution is key to building some kind of sustainability in the industry. And so next up, I'm going to try to apply these principles to filmmakers. So quick case study. And the first person that I have is, obviously someone who's done global work, Shonda Rhimes. And we know who she is. If you've seen Grey's Anatomy or Bridgerton, Scandal, which I'm actually rewatching now. You know who Shonda Rhimes is. So I think, in applying those 5 principles to her, right, if you ask, what is her why? She's very big on diversity, power dynamics, and strong female characters. You know, if you like in Scandal, Olivia Pope, you know, characters navigating complexities of power and morality in the most powerful city in the world, and it's even controlling the most powerful man in the world. So, you know, diversity is big for her. If you watch Bridgerton, you see what she does in terms of having diverse characters in a world where people might argue that the world wasn't as diverse as she portrays them today, and so that's her applying sort of her influences, you know, to different genres. Her influences, if you listen to her, she watched a lot of classic TV. She grew up in an academic home, and she read a lot of books as well. But if you know classic, you know, American TV, a lot of those shows had mostly white characters, right? And so in her, you know, building her own, you know, brand and portfolio, what she's done is place, you know, diverse, you know, characters in, you know, on unconventional and push unconventional storylines. And she puts these characters in situations where it's not questioned. These people are supposed to be there, they're meant to be there, and it's not something to be questioned. So you can see diversity for her comes through in the way that she represents her characters on screen, be the lead characters, and then in the storylines that she also builds around these people. These guys are not, a lot of times when you see minority characters in shows, they're like the support and they're like the add-on. But these are the main characters in a lot of her shows, because that is her existence, and she wants to, representation is a big thing for her. So while she takes the sort of traditional genres, be it, you know, medical shows and stuff, she makes it her own, and that's the way she breaks away. Her bold choices, you know, if you watch the How to Get Away with Murder, which is a non-linear storytelling, which is not, you know, which hasn't sort of been the way she's told stories in other shows that she's had, you know, exploring, you know, complex social issues. She's not, you know, shy about, you know, addressing social issues with her characters, and, you know, placing them in situations that will generate, you know, discussion and talk. So she makes very bold choices. Now you can argue that even with the way that she applies diversity to her stories, that is, you know, in a sense, making bold choices as well. She's, you know, in terms of collaborations, she's collaborated with her longtime business producing partner, Betsy Beers. But at the same time, the whole idea of Shondaland is building a universe of people, and a team of people that she's collaborated with across a lot of her shows over the long term. So if you watch, you know, Shonda Rhimes' shows, you will see the same names pop up over and over again, because those are the people I think that she's built over the years, that she believes understand her vision and help her, you know, sort of to bring it to life. Consistency and evolution. I spoke about this earlier. You know, Bridgerton is a very different genre for her, right? It's sort of like a historic period piece, which is modernized, but at the same, you know, at the same time, she's applied the same principles, you know, that drive her to them, which is part of how she has created her own voice. So, like I said before, Bridgerton is a show with, you know, many minority characters at the forefront, and when you could argue that in those days, those sort of types, those people were in the background. So I think that's Shonda Rhimes, and that's Shonda Rhimes, and that's the case study on her and how we apply those 5 principles to her. And as filmmakers, hopefully you can also apply those principles to yourself as you try to develop your voice. And then the second person is more homegrown. Next slide, please. Next slide. This person's outside. Okay, next slide. Next slide is Kunle Afolayan, who is our own, Nollywood, you know, Nigerian filmmaker. I think if you look at Kunle's filmography, you can understand what drives him, his ethos and his why around culture, tradition, and identity. From films The Figurine, you know, there's a tension between tradition and, you know, modernity that recurs in his work, and so, you know, that comes through for him. he's greatly influenced by Nigerian folklore, global cinema. A lot of us, growing up as Nigerians, watched a lot of global cinema, and it makes sense that that those are part of his influences. And then he blends these influences to create his own, unique version, unique vision. October 1st is, historic genre. Along with Nigerian cultural themes and narratives. So he applies his influences, but he's also willing to explore them across different kinds of genres. He takes risks in his storytelling. I think just in the choices of sort of the kinds of stories he tells, I think he has a very diverse filmography. I wanted to put that up here, but I was having space issues. I didn't want to go to a new slide. But yeah, so I think his filmography is quite diverse, and it shows, sort of how he, applies, how he takes risks in order to tell his stories, be it, sort of period pieces versus modern day stories. That has helped him, build a diverse body of work. He collaborates in front and behind the camera, and across the platforms. We know that he's doing quite a bit with Netflix, but I think him as a film, maker, I think part of what his own work in terms of collaborations is also training, and bringing up a new generation like he's doing with Cap Academy. So I think he's at the top of that sort of collaboration chain. And the last, but not the least, his consistency and evolution. So if you look at, how he's evolved from, the figurine, which was more supernatural, to a historical piece like October 1, he tries to stay fresh, and to more sort of his recent work, he tries to keep his voice fresh, again, while maintaining focus on on his core, which is identity and culture. So that's it for me, and that hopefully you can, as filmmakers, you can apply those 5 principles, and to try to build a distinctive voice in this industry. Thank you very much.